throwaway since my sister knows my main account. Not even sure why I'm posting this, but I need to get this off my chest because I'm seriously questioning if I'm overreacting. I, male 18, have always been a pretty good student. Like, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I've maintained a 3.9 GPA throughout high school while also working part-time at the local grocery store on weekends, mostly stocking shelves and stuff. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my mom Pam doesn't have a ton of money as a school administrator, but she's always been supportive. My dad Edward, male, 52, owns a construction company that does okay, but has always been kind of up and down financially. Anyway, the one constant thing my whole life has been that my dad promised I had this college fund, around $35,000, that he started when I was a baby. He constantly brought it up whenever I got good grades or whenever we talked about my future. He'd tell me not to worry about money because he had my college covered. He said that probably 100 times over the years. Oh, and I should mention I have this collection of vintage Star Wars figures I've been keeping in mint condition since I was a kid. I've always been super careful with them, never even opened most of them. I know that's random, but I always kind of thought of them as a backup plan, like maybe they'd be worth something someday if I ever really needed money. Guess that was kind of weirdly prophetic or something. My high school guidance counselor kept pushing me to apply for all these scholarships, and I did a few, but honestly I didn't take it that seriously because, I had the college fund. I just figured she told everyone to apply for scholarships because that's her job or whatever. Looking back, I'm wondering if she somehow knew my dad was full of crap. I don't know. So I got accepted to my dream university with this amazing engineering program, and I was so excited. I already bought a hoodie with the university logo and had been planning out my dorm room and everything. I even had this whole Pinterest board with dorm organization ideas, kind of embarrassing, but whatever. My sister Crystal, female, 30, she's definitely my dad's favorite. Always has been. She's been engaged twice before, and both ended pretty badly. Her first fiancé cheated on her, and she found out her second one was in big debt. After each breakup, my dad would basically fund these recovery periods where she'd go on expensive trips or buy a bunch of new clothes or whatever. I don't really care about the favoritism, though. I mean, I understand Crystal has had a harder time finding her path in life and stuff. This stray cat I named Professor Whiskers, lol, comes to my window every night, and I always feed him even though my dad complains about attracting animals. I'm gonna miss that little guy. Anyway, Crystal recently got engaged again to this guy Rick, male, 37, who she met at some charity thing only like 6 months ago. He's a real estate developer and seems super charismatic and whatever. They immediately started planning this ridiculously expensive wedding that's supposed to cost like $60,000. My dad kept saying Rick would pay for half of it, which seemed weird to me, but I didn't question it. I was actually happy for Crystal despite us not being super close. Like, she literally forgot my birthday 3 years in a row, but never forgets to tag me in these horrible throwback photos where I'm like mid-sneeze or something. But still, I wanted her to be happy. So 2 weeks before my high school graduation, I needed to check my college fund account to finalize some financial aid paperwork. And that's when I found out the account was completely empty. I went to talk to my dad about it while he was in his home office looking at some blueprints. I showed him the statement with the zero balance and asked if this was some kind of mistake. He took off his reading glasses and wouldn't look me in the eye. He told me he had to temporarily borrow from that account for Crystal's wedding. When I asked when the money would be returned, he said something vague about Rick helping pay it back after the honeymoon. I told him I needed to make university deposits in like 3 weeks, and he just suggested I get student loans like most kids, or maybe start at community college for a while. When I pressed him on when the money would be back, he finally admitted it wouldn't be available for at least a year or two. I asked him if Crystal's third wedding was more important than my education that I've been working toward my whole life. That's when he got angry and told me my sister deserved a special day after everything she's been through. When I tried to explain that I'd been promised this money my entire life, he just dismissed me by saying life isn't fair and I'd learn that someday. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just stood there with my mouth open. The college fund I'd been hearing about my entire life was just gone. For a wedding, for someone who's already had 2 failed engagements, I felt really sick. I later found out from my Aunt Penny, female, 45, that Crystal actually knew where the wedding money was coming from and had encouraged my dad to use my college fund, saying she deserved it more since I could just get scholarships. My aunt had called my dad to confront him about it, and I overheard parts of the conversation where she was bringing up all these examples of how my dad has always favored Crystal financially since we were kids. I figured my dad was probably just embarrassed about the whole thing and would eventually figure out some way to make it right. He kept avoiding me around the house for the next couple days, and I just couldn't take it anymore. That night, I packed up my essential stuff, left a note, and went to stay with my Aunt Penny. I've decided I'm not going to Crystal's wedding despite all the pressure from family. I had to defer my university acceptance for a year, and now I'm working 2 jobs, morning barista shift and evening warehouse work, trying to save up enough to at least cover my first year of school. My dad has been sending me texts expecting me to get over it and stop being so dramatic. I think he's probably feeling bad about what happened, but doesn't know how to apologize. But honestly, I don't even know if I want an apology at this point. He literally stole my future. Am I overreacting? Like, I get that family helps family, but this feels different. This wasn't an emergency medical situation or something. It was a party that cost more than a year of college. Edit, some people are asking if my mom can help. She's super supportive emotionally, but doesn't have much financially to contribute. She's also furious at my dad, but says she isn't surprised, which is great. A few comments are asking about exact timing. This all happened about 3 weeks ago. I've been at my aunt's place since then. To those asking if my dad's name was the only one on the account, yes. I never thought that would be an issue because I trusted him. Lesson learned. Thanks for all the advice about legal options. I looked into it, but since the account was in his name only, there's probably nothing I can do. And before anyone else suggests it, no, I'm not selling my Star Wars collection. Not yet anyway. Now for the first update. My dad emptied my college fund of $35,000 to pay for my sister's 3rd wedding. So it's been like 3 months since my last post, and honestly, I wasn't planning on updating, but a bunch of stuff has happened and I kind of need to vent. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. I read everything, even though I couldn't respond to all of it. You guys seriously helped me feel less crazy about this whole situation. Anyway, it's been about 3 months since all that went down, and I've been staying at my Aunt Penny's place. She's been amazing and only charges me like $300 for rent, which is basically nothing for this area. I'm working 2 jobs now. Still at the coffee shop in the mornings. I'm actually shift supervisor now, which is cool, I guess. And then I do warehouse work in the evenings. I'm basically working 50+ hours every week, which is exhausting, but whatever. I started taking some night classes at the community college too, just so I don't completely lose momentum with school. It's not the engineering program I wanted, but at least I'm doing something academic. My brain would probably turn to mush otherwise with all the manual labor and coffee making. The best news is I've managed to save almost $7,000 so far. I know that's nowhere near what I need for university, but I'm actually pretty proud of myself. At this rate, I should have enough for at least the first semester's tuition and books by next fall. I don't need anyone's help anyway. I mean, yeah, I'm basically exhausted all the time, and sometimes I forget if I've eaten that day because my schedule is so crazy, but it's fine. Everything is fine. I haven't spoken to my dad or Crystal at all since I left. Not a single word. My dad has only texted me like twice. Once to ask where I put some toolbox he couldn't find, seriously, and once to say, hope you're doing well, which is just whatever. I think he's probably just giving me space to cool down or something. At least that's what I keep telling myself. I actually check his Facebook like 3 times a day still, which is stupid because I'm totally over the whole situation. I don't even care anymore, really. So about Crystal's wedding, I didn't go obviously, but my cousin sent me pictures and videos. It was really fancy with expensive decorations and food. But get this, apparently Rick, Crystal's new husband, has some serious gambling issues and didn't contribute a single dollar to the wedding. So my dad was stuck paying the entire $60,000 himself. My cousin actually sent me this video of their wedding cake falling right before they were supposed to cut it. My mom has been really great through all this. She doesn't have much money to help, but she brings me home-cooked meals like twice a week and sits with me while I eat. She even started coming to my community college jazz performances after I joined the ensemble. She always brings these little Tupperware containers of food and watches me like a hawk to make sure I'm eating enough, which is annoying, but also kind of nice. The extended family is super divided about everything. Some people think I'm being a dramatic teenager, which maybe, I don't know. But others have been really supportive, especially after they found out more details about how my dad has basically always favored Crystal financially. So my Aunt Penny called me the other day after this big Sunday family dinner at my grandma's house that I skipped because I had work. She was giving me all the gossip, and apparently my dad was complaining about me being dramatic and ungrateful the whole time. I asked her who else was there and what they said, and apparently my cousin Holly actually defended me. She brought up how my dad had promised to help with her car down payment last year, but then suddenly couldn't afford it and then gave the money to Crystal instead for some spa retreat thing after her second divorce. I was like, what? I had no idea he did that to other people too. And then Penny told me this has been going on for years with basically everyone in the family. Like my dad constantly promises financial help to different family members, but then the money always somehow ends up going to Crystal instead. I asked what Crystal said during all this, and Penny told me Crystal claimed that I never really wanted to go to college anyway, which is complete BS because I've been talking about this engineering program since like freshman year of high school. I literally had the university hoodie and everything. Penny said several family members immediately called out Crystal's lie, and she got all upset and left the dinner early saying everyone was ganging up on her. Classic Crystal. And of course my dad followed her out, which just made everyone else at dinner even more annoyed. Oh, and apparently my grandma told my dad he was making the same mistakes he'd always made, whatever that means. There's clearly some family history I don't know about. The best part, Crystal and Rick's marriage is already falling apart after only 2 months. My cousin told me Rick's gambling has gotten worse, and Crystal just found out about all this debt he had hidden from her. Part of me thought maybe this would make Crystal understand how it feels to have someone lie about money and betray your trust. But according to my aunt, she's just blaming everyone else for not warning her enough about Rick. I still have this stupid suit hanging in my closet that I bought for the wedding. It still has the tags on and everything. I keep thinking I should return it, but then I don't. Oh, and my dad's construction business is apparently not doing great. My aunt said several big projects got canceled, and some investor pulled out. The only direct contact I've had from my dad was this text last week that said, "I hope you're happy. The family is completely divided and everyone's against me now because of all your drama. You should be supporting your sister during her marital problems instead of turning everyone against me." I didn't respond, but I literally couldn't sleep for like 3 nights after that. Like part of me feels good that everyone knows the truth now, but another part feels guilty, which is stupid because I didn't do anything wrong. The craziest part is my Aunt Penny found out my dad has been financially supporting Crystal for years more than I even knew about. Like he paid off her credit card debt multiple times, we're talking thousands of dollars, and bought her a car last year while telling me he couldn't afford to replace my laptop that broke right before finals. I had to write my final papers on my phone. Anyway, I'm completely over the whole situation and don't even think about it that much anymore. It is what it is. I'm doing fine on my own and don't need his money. I'm just tired, like really, really tired all the time. But whatever, it's fine. Edit. To answer everyone asking if I've thought about legal action, yes, I looked into it, but since the account was only in his name, there's not much I can do legally. Believe me, I checked. Edit 2. Several people have asked about my Star Wars collection. I still have it. I'm not selling it unless I absolutely have to. It's actually safely stored at my mom's place now. For those suggesting I reach out to my dad to reconcile, I'm just not ready. Maybe someday, but right now I'm still processing everything. Plus his text made it pretty clear he doesn't actually think he did anything wrong. Now for the second update. First of all, wow, it's been a while since I posted anything. I honestly wasn't planning to update again, but so much has happened in the last 6 months. So it's been 6 months since I left my dad's house, and honestly, I'm doing pretty okay. I'm still working both jobs, coffee shop mornings, warehouse evenings, and I've managed to save a little over $12,000. I know that's not like anywhere close to what my college fund was, but I'm actually kind of proud of myself. I've developed this whole insane color-coded budget spreadsheet system that tracks every single penny I spend. My friends at the coffee shop call me the Excel Whisperer and make fun of me for getting excited about pivot tables, lol. But whatever, it's working. I've also been taking community college classes at night and somehow managed to keep a 4.0 GPA there. Sleep is overrated anyway. The best news is I just got accepted to State University for next fall. It's not my dream engineering school, but they gave me this partial scholarship that covers like 40% of tuition. Between that, my savings, and some student loans, I think I can actually make this work without going into massive debt. So remember how Crystal married that Rick guy who was supposedly so rich he was going to pay for half the wedding? Well, turns out he had a serious gambling problem and their marriage completely fell apart after only 4 months. My cousin told me Rick actually took out loans in Crystal's name to cover his gambling debts. When I first heard about this, I honestly thought maybe Crystal would finally understand how it feels to have someone lie about money and completely betray your trust. Like maybe she'd gain some perspective about what she and my dad did to me. Yeah, no, that didn't happen at all. Instead, Crystal moved back in with my dad and is somehow more entitled than before. She brought her 3 designer dogs with her, these tiny yappy things that shed everywhere, which is extra hilarious because I was super allergic to dogs and my dad would never let me have one, but now apparently it's fine for them to take over the entire house. My aunt says there's dog hair on literally everything, including the inside of the fridge somehow. My mom, Pam, has been amazing through all of this. Even though she doesn't have much money, she drops off home-cooked meals at my aunt's house twice a week. She always includes chocolate chip cookies with little notes on them. She used to do that when I was in elementary school, and I had completely forgotten about it until she started doing it again. I found myself crying over a cookie the other day, which is probably the lamest sentence I've ever typed, but whatever. So anyway, everything was going along pretty okay until 3 days ago when I got this email from my dad, like completely out of the blue. The subject line was, "I need your help, son." Yes, with that many exclamation points. I was on my break at the coffee shop when it came through, and my hands were actually shaking when I opened it. The email had photos of his empty wallet, past due notices, and his nearly empty refrigerator. He was trying to make me feel bad with these photos. There was a long explanation about how his business is failing and how he's had such bad luck. And then at the end, he asked if I could send him $2,000 just until things turn around next month. $2,000 from me, the person whose entire future he stole. I immediately called my Aunt Penny because I was freaking out. She confirmed that his construction business has basically collapsed and his house is actually at risk of foreclosure. I asked if Crystal was helping financially, and Penny just laughed. Crystal has no job and is still living with him, completely rent-free. I asked about any savings or other assets he might have, and Penny told me he's been using credit cards to maintain Crystal's lifestyle this whole time. I asked Penny to find out more details about his financial situation, and she agreed to talk to our uncle, who works with my dad occasionally. After Penny and my uncle did some digging, they found out the real situation. My dad has accumulated over $85,000 in credit card debt from supporting Crystal for years. Crystal has been encouraging him to take out more loans and credit lines, insisting that his business would recover any day now. My uncle also told Penny that Dad's business is failing, partly because he keeps missing important meetings to deal with Crystal's constant problems and legal issues with Rick. I honestly don't know how to feel about all this. On one hand, I don't really care about my dad's situation. Like, he made his bed, right? But then I spent the whole night tossing and turning, worried about him becoming homeless or something. I know that's stupid considering what he did to me, but he's still my dad. I talked to my mom, aunt, and even my old high school guidance counselor about what to do. I even stayed up until like 3 a.m. one night, watching these old family videos from when I was a kid. It was actually kind of depressing, because even in those videos, you can see how my dad would constantly interrupt whatever I was doing to focus on Crystal's demands. After thinking about it for days, I finally decided how to respond. I sat down at my computer last Sunday morning when I had the house to myself. I opened his email again and read it completely one more time. Then I got out this old passbook from my original college fund showing all the birthday and Christmas money I had contributed myself over the years. Almost $3,000 of my own money that he also took. I took a photo of that passbook and then took a screenshot of my current bank account showing the $12,435 I've saved through working 2 jobs. I attached my acceptance letter to State University with the info about my partial scholarship. I also added some photos of myself at both jobs and studying late at night at the library. Then I wrote that I learned to support myself when he wouldn't, and that I can't afford to fund people who don't value my future. I was originally going to just send it to him privately, but then I decided to CC our entire extended family. I sat there with my finger hovering over the send button for like 5 minutes. Then I added that I'm doing well because I made hard choices and maybe it's time he did the same. I hit send and immediately turned off my phone. I went for a really long walk and felt sick about what I'd done. When I finally turned my phone back on a few hours later, I had dozens of messages from family members. But they weren't mad at me. They were actually super supportive. Turns out several of my cousins had similar stories about my dad promising them money and then giving it to Crystal instead. My Aunt Carol, who I barely even know, called me and told me how proud she was that I stood up for myself. Some of my family members even started this small scholarship fund for me. It's not a huge amount, but every little bit helps. My dad was apparently forced to sell his house to pay off some of the debts. He and Crystal moved into this small apartment, and Crystal finally took a job as a receptionist after realizing no one else was going to support her lifestyle anymore. My dad did eventually respond with a brief, defensive email saying I had misunderstood the situation, but never actually apologized. Whatever. Aunt Penny helped me find a therapist who specializes in family dynamics, and that's been helping me process all my feelings about everything. I still maintain pretty firm boundaries with my dad, but I've left the door open for a relationship if he ever actually changes. I'm still angry about the college fund, but this whole experience taught me a lot about standing on my own feet and breaking the cycle that runs in my family. The situation isn't totally resolved, and some family relationships are definitely still strained, but I actually feel pretty good about my decision and my future. Sometimes the hardest part of growing up is realizing the adults in your life aren't always right, and standing up for yourself can be painful but necessary.